This is Linux Inlaws, a podcast on topics around free and open source software, any associated contraband, communism, the revolution in general, and whatever else fancies your tickle. Please note that this and other episodes may contain strong language, offensive humor, and other certainly not politically correct language. You have been warned. Our parents insisted on this disclaimer. Happy, Mum? Thus, the content is not suitable for consumption in the workplace, especially when played back on a speaker in an open plan office or similar environments. Any minors under the age of 35, or any pets, including fluffy little killer bunnies, your trusted guide dog, unless on speed, and cute T-Rexes or other associated dinosaurs. Welcome to Linux Inlaws, Season 1, Episode 98. Martin, how are things?
Things are not too bad, thank you. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Now, given the fact that that the election is coming up in the US very soon, so what is your guess now for 2024, given the fact that it has mysteriously vanished from the surface of the planet?
24?
Yes.
That's not soon. It's only just started.
It is, Martin. It is, Martin. This
I guess it will be by the time episode goes out.
Yes, exactly. So, Martin, any guesses?
Well, isn't Trump running again? I would imagine.
Well, he used to kind of 23, but then things happened.
Yeah, there's some legal issues going on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, about the fifth or sixth impeachment try that they kind of pulled off with regards to this legislation off in 2016, 2017, stuff like this.
Yeah, there's a certain Mrs. Daniels who has a lot to say about it. I hear.
Martin, not to worry. If you're spotty on the detail, just read the history books about 4 years time or something. But this is, of course, not the history podcast. Funny enough, it isn't. No, we are proud to have Newforge from tonight. Newforge is a company focusing, among other things, on providing capital for open source companies. But without further ado, Alex, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. Hi, Martin. Thanks for having me on your show tonight. I'm super excited. I'm Alex from Newforge, as you just introduced us perfectly, actually. We are an early stage business angel club focusing on supporting B2B SaaS companies in their early stages, starting with their first ideas and hopefully growing into great working companies to help all the developers out there becoming more effective, faster in coding, or more secure. And yeah, that is what we have been doing for the last 3 years, I guess, right now. So happy to talk with you guys tonight.
Alex, before we go into the details, actually, what Newforge does on a more detailed level, I mean, why don't you take us through the stages of a VC funding process when it comes down to providing money for startup companies? Say, from somebody has this great idea of doing the next Twitter or something like this, and finally basically get up to kind of, say, the initial public offering or basically selling the company. Why don't you kind of take us through the 27 stages or even less of your typical VC funding cycle, so that everybody has at least a kind of brief overview of how such a life cycle with regards to providing capital for a startup actually takes place.
Right. So yeah, of course I can. So what is actually a startup, right? I think that is a quite interesting question at first before going into those stages. So if you have a business idea, or maybe you've experienced that yourself, programming all day, and you pretty much found a problem which is worth solving by like a solution, and you come up with this idea on how can I solve this problem? And I do see that problem probably or within other companies or within my colleague network. They are trying to tackle it, but no one found yet a great solution which can help. So this is usually the starting point for the first startup idea, identifying something which is worth solving, having a problem which is large enough to scale in terms of a market. So that's where you actually start off getting interested in, okay, how can I actually make a business out of it? And you start off by identifying this problem and trying to evaluate the opportunity which comes with that problem and the idea you have to solve it. And you usually start with conducting market research in the really early stages. So checking out how large is the market, how many people might have that problem, and from that also pursuing like the first ideas on how to solve that that particular problem. And this is the first start of your solution you're going to build. And besides that, of course, as we're talking about businesses as well, you will also look into the financial aspects, whether how do you structure your company later on, what might costs going to be for developing that solution. And that's actually where you start. And this stage, especially when you start, those are the early stage startup cycles where you're going to start off. So we are talking here about the stage of like early pre-seed where you are picking off your first idea.
Well, we're talking specifically about software companies, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to specify that.
Just in case people started to
right.
think about Dragon's Den and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you're kind of similar idea, but then for software companies.
There we go.
Okay.
And
yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just quickly wanted to add. So some might have an idea which is easily can be picked off. You start off programming it, and then you somehow launch it to your friends or colleagues. And at one point, you have to decide what is going to happen with this idea, right? So am I going to take it on the next level, and do I somehow pursue this idea in terms of a prototype or MVP, which I'm going to build? And at some point, you of course need some source of financing, right? So growing that idea in terms of a business needs somehow capital to come in to make it grow. And that's actually the part where we as Newforge, for example, come in as early stage investors, or what we consider ourselves as business angels. When you do those pre-seed or early stage investments into the first life of a startup, when the founders are developing this first idea and starting off with having family or friends in the background and angels investors supporting this first set of basic ideas. And from there it goes on to grow this idea. You want to try to get product market fit at some point, which means getting that product out to people to actually use it, right? Because that is somehow your validation. Are people interested in what you're building? Can they see somehow the benefits of your product within their day-to-day work? And to grow further, you of course need more money. And once you start taking on with your business, you might need further funding, and those stages which come along with further money to gain traction in the market, to gain more people or provide more people your ideas and get this team involved. Then those called Series A stages start to pick up, and from there, once you get going, further investments rounds to Series B, to Series C, and so on are going to start to happen.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you are a fully German company, organization? What do you call yourself actually? Are you a physical entity, or you mentioned a group of partners? How do you operate?
Right. I think we as NewForge found a quite interesting combination of how we are on the one hand investing, but on the other hand adding value to businesses. So what is a business angel, what we consider to be ourselves? What are they actually doing? So they provide usually financial backing in those early stages where startups trying to pick on their ideas, developing their first products, and those angel or seed investors, which they are also called, invest their money or part of their money into the equity ownership of a company. On the other hand, we do support those companies in terms of expertise, experience, or industry connection to help those companies grow. And this is pretty much what a business angel is valued for in those early stages, not just giving money to pick up with the idea and grow, but also to provide the knowledge on how do economies work, how can you scale your product, not only on the financial side, but we are also advising in terms of technology and setting up your go-to-market strategy for later stages. And that's actually where we see our benefit as well.
Yeah, it's one thing being, building some great software, but it's a different question altogether, running a company with employees and all that kind of stuff, right? That's I've seen that quite a few times in our own experience.
Yeah. Alex, going back to the funding cycles. I mean, okay, let's take the example of maybe even Orangerie. Orangerie is, and you explain this because I've only met the founder once or twice. But let's use this as an example how this is done, basically how this route progresses.
Yeah. So we as NewForge are invested in, I would say today, almost 60 companies by now. And Orangerie is actually one company we started to invest in, I think about a year ago. And the concept of Orangerie is to provide co-working spaces to second-tier cities in Germany. So they are placing co-working spaces in areas where the larger co-working spaces, for example, WeWork, are not going to. Because during COVID, they have seen the trend that people move out of the city or staying at home, and now feeling somehow that working at home doesn't fully suit them, and they want to have a place outside of their own home, but not travel to the larger cities. So they are looking for working opportunities within cities, around larger cities, of course. And we supported that project quite early on. Today, NewForge is sitting as well in an Orangerie co-working space. And what they also did, and maybe that's the topic of why we are investing in such a great startup as well. They are also developing their own co-working management system, which is called Orangerie OS. And they provide a software or a complete software toolkit for co-working spaces as well, and helping them to get started, to manage desks, to book meeting places, to manage the entire logistics around a co-working space which is going to happen. And that was a really great vision we have seen in this kind of community, and especially in the team of Orangerie.
I think there are after round A of financing. Is that fair to say?
I would say they're somewhere in between a seed and Series A phase, because they are not a typical SaaS or typical software startup, because they have a huge component of managing like infrastructure or physical infrastructure, like office buildings and stuff like that. So it can't be really compared to what you would say the entire software industry runs with. So, but like in terms of their financing volume, maybe you can say they're somewhere in between a seed or Series A funding round. Yeah.
So using this probably not exactly perfect example, and explain the cycle a little bit more.
Yeah, sure.
Next comes, I reckon, market validation. Given the fact that they have opened, I think, 6 or 7 locations by now, I reckon validation is almost complete. But what comes afterwards? I mean, normally we have so-called fund, typically named after letters like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and sometimes then you either have an IPO or an acquisition, because as we probably all know, VCs do have an exit strategy in terms of
Right.
they want to get their investment back, and typically with a little bit of a markup, so that they made some money. But maybe why don't you take us through these results and also kind of attach the go-to-market strategy to these individual steps? I mean, of course, given the fact that the company, of course, is different, so every cycle length will be different, every funding stage will be different. But I mean, we're just looking at a high-level perspective. Why don't you take us through this cycle, Alex?
Yeah, sure. So let's take, to make it easier, probably just a regular SaaS company which has funded a product, had an idea, started off with this first idea, and developed a product or service, and received money from friends or angel investors to get this idea started. That's what we call seed stage, as we mentioned earlier. So reaching some point in time, okay, this startup needs more money to grow and to get that product vision even out there and grow with that product. And at this stage where you started with your startup and somehow made roughly $1 million ARR, which is annual recurring revenue, you are qualified to even larger stages in terms of getting new money in, and that money usually comes in from larger VCs company, which see that the startup somehow gained traction, that there is a market which is worth servicing with that product, and then usually those VC companies, so venture capital firms, come in and provide some more money for the company to take on the next 12 to 18 months to grow. And this is usually the point where a Series A starts to begin. And then, as you said, there is continuously added Series B, Series C, or Series D, E, F investment rounds, which are focusing on providing even more money to that company to pursue their business model and to scale even internationally, or to expand in other business areas as well. So that is usually the focus of the follow-on investment, to increase the impact of the business model within a certain category, or even without outside of this category, to grow beyond. So, and the exit strategy, of course, for a startup, there are two ways which are either going to happen. Is they're aiming for an IPO, which means a startup is going somewhere public in terms of an initial public offering. So that's where, the future or the former founders and the investors can start to trade their shares publicly at a stock exchange. Or the other part, which is not that uncommon as well, that the company is being acquired by another company, which usually sees a great value to their business, or a great expansion from their market perspective in that company. So then the acquisition deal is being part of this journey as well.
Very good. You talked a bit about the cycle, right, of investing and people coming in with ideas. What about yourselves? How do you look at people that come to you and say, "Oh, we have a great podcast. Can you invest in us?" Right, for example, what would you? How would you go about deciding whether you invest in someone?
Yeah,
Alex, before you answer that, sorry, just let me talk to Martin about our cash position. Mark cash positive, so no investment required, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. Oh,
but Alex, jokes aside, just go ahead. I just had to get this in.
I really like that one. So, yeah, sure. So, look at you two guys. You are a great team, and that is pretty much what all investors are looking for, right? Because this is one clear point every venture capitalist or business angel is looking into, to have a great team which somehow brings with them the experience or the market knowledge, or has formerly done something similar, or has experienced the problem him or herself within a certain area. Because the right team somehow is the most valuable part of a business in the early stage, because not seldomly it's going to happen that market dynamics, for example, are going to change, or your first idea somehow switches into a different direction, and you require that team or the founding team to go along with those changes, or being able to pivot their business models or their ideas towards the new circumstances they are going to face. So this is pretty much what investors are primarily looking into as well. Besides, of course, having a clear understanding of the business idea and the market potential behind it is something we are as a business angel looking into as well. So does the founding team understand how the market dynamics work? Is that problem which they are trying to solve big enough to grow a company in, which can gain multi-million or billion market segment? And does this actually work with the approach they are choosing? And do they have this customer focus which comes along with it? And by also looking into that, having a focus on the agility and adaptability of the team and the company to go along with upcoming changes and so on.
As the interesting point you mentioned there about people pivoting away from their original idea, does that happen a lot, where people have to, they had a great idea to start with, and then they find that the market has a demand for something slightly related, but there is just more demand for what they can that they're building themselves, right? So
yeah, of course, we do see that quite a lot. Not necessarily in terms, okay, I've chosen the entirely wrong or wrong, but the entirely incorrect way. But when it comes down, for example, for features which you have been looking into and trying to pursue, and you figure out that the market doesn't even demand it, or there are other problems which they have in their focus as well. So you need to adapt to those changes in requirements quite quickly, and also being able to adapt to the entire ecosystem, what your market follower or market competitors are doing as well. So that requires, of course, a high adaptable approach on what features are you pursuing, or how you're gonna pursue your business idea.
Yeah. No, it's again, it's something that I worked for one very early startup, and yeah, they had a great idea, but it just turned out that for the market there was just more demand in a certain slightly related area, but still, and as you say, with a small company having the flexibility to make changes to what they do is important. Yeah.
And I mean, it's tough, right? For a founder which has or is living a great vision as well, to change paths somehow, and yeah, to commit yourself to, okay, the market is somewhat changing. We need to adapt the product for the sake of the customers' needs, right? That I have been seeing sometimes that founders are quite in love with their product, but the great founders are adapting towards the market and what customers really need to focus on their demands and pursuing those ideas, even though they might not really like it at some point.
I mean, Olivier used to produce PCs about 40 years ago, so did Wang, but they disappeared for some reason.
Yeah. Look at
Probably,
at Kodak, for example, as well.
yep,
They've
same
been
thing.
the innovators of digital cameras, but thought, well, this is not going to happen because we're selling analog photos, and yeah, they somehow disappeared from the market themselves, right?
Yes, I mean, ultimately the markets decide
Right.
of rather being a startup. And some industry figures actually suggest that about 91, 93% of any startup will leave or will disappear within their first kind of 5 to 10 years. Now, this brings up a very interesting question. Needless to say, if you are getting in early on the game with regards to seed funding and providing seed capital, how much would you typically get involved in the operational side of a startup with regards to not just sitting on the board, for want of a pardon my French here, sorry, actively participating in the board structure of a startup, but rather getting involved on the operation side, the day-to-day business, or you are maintaining more or less a hands-off approach with regards to mentoring, advising the founders?
Actually, that depends. So we as New Forge, so our value proposition as a business angel and early stage supporter is the startup selects how they wanna involve us as a business angel. So that can vary from having one call per quarter because they just irregularly need support in terms of where the strategy going and just want to sound their approach. On the other hand, we do see that we are being involved in some rather operational tasks in terms of finding partners to pursue their go-to-market strategy with, or to even help out in terms of creating pitch decks or whatsoever. So, or challenging even their technical approaches. So this is varying a lot, and this is also a great asset to them because they can somehow pick those business angels with regard to their needs and where they see benefits in terms of, can those business angels help me pursue my business better, or do they have the experience to make a great or to build a great product? And yeah, that is varying from we are part of the operations at some point, not involved like on from day-to-day work, but once a week or twice a week to once a quarter.
Totally to the digression of the startups themselves in terms of they are calling the shots with regards to how much they want involved, rather than you mandating or advising them about your level of involvement in various phases of the investment itself.
Right. So that is our approach towards it, because we think it's the responsibility of the startup to find their way on growing the business. And when you grow, we can add value, especially in the early stage phases. But of course, we are also involved in later stages. But during those later stages, usually larger VC companies come in with an entire other set of offerings. So they usually bring legal counsel. They provide other opportunities to connect people with other companies and to scale those business. So they might get involved a little more than most probably a business angel does. But yeah, we leave it up to our companies and to our startups to call the shot whether they need us more regularly or just once in a while.
And given your status of a business early seed investor, when would you typically get out? I know it's a hard question because every company, every funding cycle is different. Fair enough. But average, say, like, you wouldn't stick necessarily around until the company IPOs, as in takes it to stock market and then basically floats the company or is being sold to a competition or not. But rather you would leave earlier than that.
Right. I think for us as a business angel, usually some of those serious A, B, C, D rounds, usually that's our opportunity to exit, because during those growth phases, usually investors come in which do also want to have a larger share, and once you have business angels on board, your cap table also becomes a little larger. And at some later stages, there's some point of cleaning process, and angels are being offered to either step out or, of course, can proceed further with the company. But for us as a small business angel, since we are not investing billions of dollars like large funds, our business model as an angel is to step in quite early and to profit from secondaries in B, C, or sometimes A rounds, which are going to happen. And we are taking that multiple to reinvest then in startups which are coming next.
Understood. You have quite a few number of people on your team. Do you do any sort of technical validation of the solutions that people come up with?
Yes.
I'm particularly thinking like something like a HiveMQ, right? It's kind of it's a subject close to my heart because clearly as my organization builds RabbitMQ, so we're obviously a widely used messaging system. And so if, for example, if I were to look at it and say, someone else wants to come in with an MQTT broker, then I would say, well, there's already some out there. What you're doing differently, right? And so you'd have to do a fair bit of technical, let's see, what are you doing better than is already done?
So this is usually part of our due diligence process. Yeah.
Sorry, Alex.
Sorry.
One question before you. Sorry to interrupt, Alex. Martin, have they sent the check? So
they do that every month.
No, I mean, sorry, to the podcast now, not to you. So that you can mention RabbitMQ quite a few more times.
I don't think HiveMQ have enough money to sponsor us.
No, Martin, I'm talking about RabbitMQ. I'm talking about your employer.
RabbitMQ is an open source project, actually.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if you mention...
They don't have any money. They're just doing it all for the love of it.
They might as well,
open source works.
Checks. Sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to, but I just squeezed this in. Anyway, sorry, Alex. Go ahead. Apologies.
Go ahead,
no, I almost forgot the question you asked me, but no, yeah, of course. Actually, I forgot the question.
Yeah, due diligence, right? Yeah, technical.
Technical due diligence, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is actually part of what we do as a business angel before investing. So how is this process going to happen? You usually being contacted by a startup which want to introduce themselves to us. They usually provide their pitch decks, and we go through that pitch deck and evaluate whether we could be helpful for them in the first part, and whether this fits to our investment focus, since we are a group of people which are experienced in B2B SaaS and software startups. I don't know if we have mentioned yet where our founders are from Newport are coming from. So our club are the former Instana founders, which is Mirko, of course, and Fabian, who founded Instana, I think 6 years back, and sold Instana to IBM 2 years back. And Raphael is also on board at Newforge, who is helping us in evaluating tech and product as well. Fabian is the former CTO, is also a really great technical expert, and is able to see whether technology can scale. Mirko, on the other hand, does understand technology brilliantly and can combine it with his go-to-market skills he gained during his time in Stana. And in the background, we also have people from the former home base of Instana, which was Concentric, on board as well, which are supporting us in technical due diligence at that point in time as well. So once we get those pitch decks, we look into that and ask usually for a 1 hour call where we go into how they're approaching go-to-market, what their technical approaches is. We usually take demos on the product and discuss, rather than just receive input from the founders, what their approach is going to be in the future and how they are going to solve the problem they have identified.
That's probably a good time to shed some more light on the history. Let me give where actually Codecentric and Instana, you already mentioned these two companies come from. Why don't I kind of try give the 6,000-foot overview, and then you can fill in the gaps.
Okay,
let's go. About 23 years ago, Mirko and some people came to the idea that Germany would need a different consultancy company with regards to innovative approaches to software engineering and system integration and software consultancy. So Codecentric was founded in a little hamlet called Solingen, funny enough, the place where I'm from originally. No ties to Codecentric at the time anyway. And now Codecentric has about, 6, 7, 8 subsidiaries all across the world. In 2015, Mirko and friends thought it might be a good idea to marry artificial intelligence application performance monitoring. Hence, Instana was born, which Mirko sold, and these are public figures, for €500 million to IBM in 2020. And now Mirko has a wine bar, among business ventures, and of course Newforge. But this is my totally biased view of things. Alex, why don't you give us the truth?
Mic drop. I can't add anything. Perfectly told story. That is pretty much the story from how Mirko founded Codecentric, got involved in Stana together with Fabian and Raphael, and sold the company. And we started a year earlier in Newforge and have been investing in early stage startups since, I don't know, late 2019. And now we're having 60 startups, or almost 60 startups in our portfolio. And besides that, each and everyone has some endeavors left and right. Mirko is building a great ecosystem of awesome, cool ideas and companies in Solingen, which also includes the wine bar you just talked about, and has a great restaurant running as well, and is taking Solingen to the next level, I would say.
It all happens there. I'm tempted to say, no, far
Yeah.
from it actually. For the people listening, zoning, who don't know what zoning is. Zoning is a
Known
tiny
for
hamlet.
knives, right? They make knives.
Yes, indeed. The tiny hamlet about 10 miles east of Düsseldorf, which is of course the heart of the Rhineland. Martin,
You're
before
always
I bore you
invited to
with
come.
exactly, Martin, if you're going to zoning, please don't forget the money. They may need it. This is not a zoning marketing podcast, although it might be a good idea to do an episode on zoning. Anyway, Martin, over to you for the final question before we wrap this up.
Yeah, well, you mentioned you've got 60 startups you're looking after right now. Do you see this and you've been doing it for 3 years? Is this something you're enjoying? Is it something you see growing? Where do you see this going, right?
So I really like what I'm doing. It's super awesome to talk to great entrepreneurs who are willing to invest their time in great ideas and solving problems, which vary from reducing carbon dioxide or improving security in environments or coming up with the next idea on how to program new great software solutions and products. And that is super interesting to see what technologies evolve and how they can be or how they are being used, and being part of that journey with those startups is not only great to see, but also great to being at some point part of those stories and participating in their growth. And that is making so much fun. And at this point, if someone is willing to pursue an idea, I can just encourage them to do that, because it's making so much fun. And I would love to found my own company again in the future someday. But and I do see the startup market. It has been changing over the last 2 years. I don't know if you guys see that as well, with the inflation starting to happen, the war in Ukraine. We see somehow a shift in the approach. Venture capitalists are looking into startups. We have seen huge growth during times of COVID, where software companies especially were growing crazy. Evaluations went high. And since the last year, I think there has been a switch or a change in the perspective. People are looking into startups right now, so it became much harder to raise a Series A or Series B round. Most recently for startups, people are not just focusing on growing like crazy, but also considering that startups focus on value as well. So being able to somehow make money or profits in the midterm, this somehow gained more perspective in venture capital. And this is those are somehow exciting times in terms of to see that switch which is happening, and which is also the foundation of new things to come. Because if we would consider this right now as a crisis or whatsoever, or a change in what is happening, this is also an opportunity for people to come up with new ideas and pursue their ideas right now. And I'm super excited for what is going to happen, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, you mentioned a very interesting thing, because right up to 2022, I'm tempted to say, big tech companies have been hiring like very crazy. But now in 2023, you see these big techniques, Google, AWS, and Microsoft are probably just three examples that come to mind. Shed, Meta, of course, is also part of this. Shed employees by the thousands, as in make them redundant left, right, and center.
Which is not just the big ones, actually, is it, right? If we think about an example closer to home, which we won't mention.
Yes, very much so, yes.
Anyway.
Do you see again at some stage? Not going back to the craze that took place in 2021 or 20 or early 2022, but rather kind of big tech companies and smaller ones, to take Martin's remark into consideration, kind of actually starting to hire again. Just hazard a guess.
Yeah, I would say so. They currently, of course, when there are times which are not where you're not able to forecast probably what is going to happen, everyone somehow is looking at their runway, or especially startups are looking into their runway and looking for what is going to happen.
You may need to explain that term to those not in the startup world.
Sorry.
Please.
It's VC talk again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good to raise your hand on that. So runway means how much money or cash do I have in my bank account, and how long does it last me to build my startup? For example, you have $1 million in your account. You spend $100K per month, so your runway is, for example, 10 months, which when you run out of money. So, and this is in uncertain times where people are looking into, okay, what is going to happen? How can I, for the sake of the business, increase my runway to go through this upcoming valley of uncertainty, and of course reducing costs is one approach towards increasing runway. But I do see that companies are reevaluating their strategies and where to go with their product, and I would see that people are, or that companies will be reinvesting in people once they figured how their new strategy or adapted strategy to that market cycles will look like, and pursuing those ideas in the future. So, and that's where new great employees, or where people with great skills do come in again. So what is your view on that? It's an interesting question as well. What do you guys see?
Martin, you run HR, so when will the Inlaws start hiring again? Now that you have go for the 10th time or something like this.
Yeah, no, it's I've worked at a Series A startup, right? And yes, you, as Alex mentioned, the existence of your company depends on how much money you have in your bank and how many employees you have and how much you're paying them, right? It's as simple as that. And, various other bills until you start getting sales in. So that's kind of the chicken and egg situation. You're trying to build a product. You need, some time to build it, which is why the investors are there. At the start to do that initial funding to be able to do that bit, but then as we know, after a while, then it's got to start paying for itself. So what do we see? I see, from personal experience, I see that people, organizations, startups are very much changing their strategies as needed, because for them it's very much a case of survival, right? There isn't the abundance of money around anymore to found round after round, and especially for the early ones, if they want to get through those first stages, they have to either there's either successful, the product sells well, or if it doesn't, they have to adapt to what does work and what they find in that period. But what is really nice is that organizations like yourself are there to help those those early years as well, because as a a software techie, you don't have any experience of running a business and then marketing and sales and all those kind of things, right? HR, not to mention. It's a very, it helps getting those companies off the ground, which otherwise they clearly wouldn't be able to. I have one final question. Sorry, Chris, before you do your comment. I want to ask Alex, if amongst the 60, do you have a favorite? Or is that a trick question?
Martin, you might have asked Alex
just
which
to know
one
where
has
to put our
failed.
money.
Alex, you don't have to answer that.
I actually hope we can invest in you guys, so then that would be my favorite company, of course.
Yeah, let me
Sorry,
get
Chris, you were
our
going to ask a question.
on the line. Yes. No, jokes aside. No, it's interesting, Alex, because I reckon I fully concur with your vision that now is probably not the ideal time to found a company with regards to the last 5 to 6 years, because the flow of venture capital has been way more approachable. That's the word I'm looking for, in terms of the cash was there, which is not the case at the moment, because everybody is kind of with regards to how much capital is available, where we're going to spend it, and you exactly hit the nail on the spot. What is how long is my runway? How can I decrease costs and all the rest of it? It's not the easiest point in time to found a company, I'm tempted to say, but I'm just wondering when this will turn around.
Well, let me add to that, because I think to found a company right now, I think that's a great spot in time, because now we see this little down peak in terms of funding. I don't see that in early stage or super early stage funding. It's rather in Series A and B. So there are still a lot of people pursuing their ideas right now, because I wouldn't say right now that the early stage funding got hit as hard as Series A and B. So that's actually something which might be valuable right now to start the idea, so that your product is up and running in 2 years from now, when markets most probably or hopefully starting to pick up again. You have a product ready to run and scale with this new market dynamic. So to found a company, I would say it's might be really a good time to pursue your idea and to collect a little money to pursue that product.
So, Martin, that means we should start talking to angels once again.
I didn't know we did this before.
Let's discuss this offline. Okay, wrapping this up. Anything, Alex, that we should tackle before we kind of conclude the episode? Anything that you want to mention that hasn't been mentioned yet?
No, actually, I just want to encourage everyone who has an idea in mind to pursue that idea somehow and to figure out whether this is an idea worth solving. It's just a super great endeavor to start your own business and to pursue those ideas. And I want to encourage everyone to pursue that idea.
Alex, you're just too modest. Of course, links to New4 in the show notes. So if you want to talk to New4 about your business idea, I reckon that you'll find more than a set of open ears with Alex and friends, I suppose.
Of course.
Okay, great. Alex, we do have a kind of last point that we normally discuss, is called the POCs, as in the pick of the week, in terms of if there's anything that has crossed your path in the last couple of weeks, which you find worth mentioning. This is what we normally discuss. Normally goes into Amish gambling sites. I tackle movies, but really anything. So what's your POCs, Alex?
I'm currently looking into how can I improve my my day, because I have so many calendar tasks right now, and one of our recent investments has been in a calendar tool, and this is my recommendation for everyone who's struggling with calendars. I want to give a shout out to Morgan. and this is something I'm currently really involved into to figure out how I can improve my day-to-day meeting life, and maybe someone is struggling with that as well. So feel free to go to Morgan and check them out.
And Morgan is, of course, spelled like the German tomorrow as RGEN.SO. For those of you who kind of can't read the show notes, I don't know how to work the internet. I'm joking. Okay,
This is
Martin,
why they're listening to a podcast.
Exactly. Okay, Martin, over to you.
Yeah. So for me, I've recently started rewatching Father Ted, and it's still as hilarious as it was back in the day. It's just it's just brilliant.
Martin. Yeah. So you finally listened to PP in terms of watch the right shows, okay?
No, I watched it originally, right? But it's I can't remember how old it is, but it doesn't matter how old it is. It's still very relevant.
About 30 years. Yes. Martin, Mr. Wizards GP, if you're listening, thank you for the advice that we can get Martin back. Thank you. Okay. No, I mean, for those people who do not know Father Ted, it's a very funny show. It's about 30 years old. Maybe even more. Links, of course, will be in the show notes. It was produced by a British TV company, I'm tempted to add. I think it was done by Channel 4 or something.
Graham Linham wrote it, I think. One of the writers. Yeah.
It's about the exploits of an Irish parish priest on the west coast of Ireland. And, of course, all the Irish stereotypes are fulfilled to the max.
Indeed.
I'm tempted to say.
But yeah,
I won't give away too much, but it's very
very simple humor, but it's just hilarious.
Sounds like Monty Python, right?
Yeah, not quite as abstract, but yeah, it's
okay.
Exactly. So it's way more down to earth. Although there are some Monty Python moments. For example, the episode with the milk van on the roundabout. This is kind of almost Monty Python-esque. Yes.
Indeed.
But again, Alex, it's really old. I'm talking the 90s.
Yeah, I had to Google it right now. So
yes.
I'm starting to watch it tomorrow.
Google, if you're a sponsor at linux.eu, if you want to hear your names,
other search engines are available.
Can you please put it in the show notes as well?
Of course, yes. Okay, My Pox is actually also a TV show called Rick and Morty. Don't know if you know that, Alex. It's an animated adult TV series, and 2022 saw the 6th of the season, and I absolutely recommend episode 6. I won't give away too much, but it's probably one of the most hilarious Rick and Morty episodes ever. Okay. If you're into that sort of thing. And of course, we do have feedback.
We do.
We do, yes. You want to read this? Should I do this?
Which one is it? Why don't you do your...
Luna.
Luna, yes. Yeah. Why don't you do that one? I have another one which you probably haven't seen
yet. Okay, in that case, yes. Luna wrote in quite some time ago, actually, February 2023. Yes. Hey, nice seeing you at FOSDEM. When you and Martin surprised said hi at the Fedora booth, continuing to listen to have some episodes to catch up with, are at 72 at the moment. Luna, our most favorite fan, of course, after Biku disappeared somewhat from the surface of the earth. We absolutely, and I think we said that before on a recent episode, we absolutely love meeting you at FOSDEM, and of course also all the other Fedora people, and keep up the good work. Martin,
despite our best efforts, Luna is not yet turning up on the show. But so yeah, this bit of feedback was sent to me on LinkedIn by an old friend of mine. He said, "Why did it take me 3 years to discover your podcast? Your marketing is terrible."
Martin, this is no surprise as you keep firing them.
Well, as they're clearly useless, as it's a point proven, right?
Oh dear. Can you mention his or her name, or is that totally anonymous?
No, this is Andreas. I think I introduced you at FOSDEM. Andreas Scherbaum of...
Yes! Indeed you did. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, a new listener.
And with that, yes. No, I mean the name rings a bell, of course. Yes, Alex, thank you very much for
Thank you
being
very much.
on the show.
Yes.
We are really looking
Thanks for
forward to
having me
having you
on your
back in a
show.
couple of years' time. Yes, when U-Forge has finally conquered the world and has shown what's the word I'm looking for, and Reason and other venture capital companies the road. It may take a couple of weeks, but I'm sure you'll get
Maybe.
there eventually. And thank you very much for your time. This is the Linux Inlaws.
You come for the knowledge.
But stay for the madness.
Thank you for listening.
This podcast is licensed under the latest version of the Creative Commons license, type Attribution Share Alike. Credits for the intro music go to Blue Sea Roosters for their song Solid Market, to Twin Flames for their piece called The Flow, used for the segment intros, and finally to Celestial Ground for their song Sweet Justice, used by the Dark Side. You find these and other ditties licensed under CC at Jamendo, a website dedicated to liberate the music industry from choking copyright legislation and other crap concepts.